Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Retro Game Hunting here on Player One Start. Today we're actually going to continue the Wii U trip that I've been making, trying to collect as many Wii U titles as I can before they disappear off of store shelves. In the last video I mentioned that I was going to be making some trips up north, and that is partially true. I decided to head out east and west of my current location before I start making the trip all the way up north. So I actually took a trip over a couple of weekends. In this first trip, you're going to see just one of the stores where I found most of the games that I got. And on the second part of the trip, you're going to see the other store I got most of the games I got on there too. There's actually 3 stores in total that I plan on showing, and at the conclusion of this video, I do have a little bonus for you. It's a store that is not like all of the other stores I've visited. So let's go ahead and get started, and we'll take a look at what I got. Alright, so here I'm heading a bit northeast of my area to a store that is actually closing. Some 3DS titles caught my eye, as well as some of the Wii U titles here. It appears we're back down to the price of $4.99 per game, which is good, especially considering some of the games that I got. Again, there are a lot of gaps on the Wii U side, and the 3DS side as well, because I've already gone through here and picked out some of the games that I want. But I thought I'd show you some of the games that I was passing on because they're games that either aren't that valuable to me, or ones I already have. And here are the games that I ended up getting. Paper Mario and Luigi's Mansion on the 3DS were both good finds in my opinion, but Super Mario Maker and New Super Luigi U was also a great find as well. And yes, this is the first time I'm picking up one of those Mario and Sonic Olympic compilations. I did take some time to go through some of their other game systems collections, including the PS3, and that's where I came across the sign that told me what the actual prices were for these games. It looks like most of the games have been really picked over by this point, and the games that were remaining for these systems were mostly sports titles or titles that were just throwaway ones that weren't really worth buying. So the PS4 and Xbox One offerings were a bit skimpy because they had been picked over by this point. However, in terms of Wii and Xbox 360 titles as well, there was a wide selection of offering for games. However, again, this is not the main purpose of my collecting journey, so I don't think I grabbed too many titles from this store. But again, I want to note that I didn't really find any of the hard-to-find games or most popular games in each system. These are just games that either are average or poor in quality, and aren't really the most desired at the moment for these consoles. And who knows, maybe if we bury one of these in the sand for 50 years, even they will be worth something one day. But before I left this store, I went ahead and took one last look around just to kind of show you how these places are indeed disappearing by the day, even around my area where these stores seem to still be plentiful. There were other things besides games in these stores that were for sale, such as movies, and even things such as the shelves, tables, and this M&M's guy over here. I did grab something like that from this store as well, but since I didn't get any video footage of me finding it, I'm going to go ahead and show you that at the end of this video along with everything that I found. But for now, as this place becomes a memory, we'll have to move on to another store. One day later, heading out in the complete opposite direction, I found a store that is also going out of business. I guess it really is true that these stores are disappearing even by the day here in our area. So when looking at the titles that they have for sale, they're actually cheaper than what they are listed. There's a chart on the wall that has you translate the pricing, which I didn't really care for trying to do, so I didn't actually buy too many other titles from this store other than the standard Wii U titles I'm looking for. Although when you look at their selection they have here, you'll also see why I didn't buy a lot of these. Yeah, a few of these titles may look interesting, but most of them are titles that are not really desirable. Warriors Orochi caught my eye, but then again, when you look at some of the other titles on here, you'll see a lot of Band Hero, Rock Band, Guitar Hero, Tiger Woods sports games. I mean, they're just not really games that I want to collect for this system, mainly because I already have them, but... And again, unfortunately, the Xbox One selection is also severely picked over, leaving games such as NHL 15 and Overwatch for $20. I'm not even sure if that's a good deal or not. And here's also something I'm not quite sure of. The Battleborn pricing is a bit off, either $20 or $10. Even still, I think they just took those servers down, so I'm sure that game is useless by now. Their PS4 selection wasn't any better, as you can see here. A lot of sports titles and throwaway titles. And here I guess they have their cheaper Wii selection. You can take a look at some of the titles they have in here, but there wasn't really too many that caught my eye. I think these would be a bit more appealing to me if they weren't charging, well, it says $5 a piece, but I think they were really around $3 a piece for these games. I think that I would have been a bit more interested around the dollar price range because, as I said, a lot of these titles are not really desirable, they're not collectible, at least not yet. And looking at their PS3 selection, you can see a lot of games here as well. Unfortunately, the only ones I wanted over here are ones I already owned. But here's what I came to see. Here are all the Wii U titles they have left. They also have some 3DS titles to look at, and there are a few that I'm interested in here as well. And apparently I didn't record any footage of me browsing through the titles, but I only grabbed a couple and then went up to the checkout counter. The cashier asked me if I liked the Wii U or if I had any other games that I was interested in. When I replied yes, she said that she would cut me a deal for these games, so for $1 a piece, I ended up picking up all of the Wii U titles and most of these 3DS titles. Which I have to say is a fantastic deal for these games, and I was very pleased that they were willing to make a deal. Again, I only feel like this happened because this store is actually shutting down. They did say that they would ship any unsold inventory to another one of these stores to either try to sell or rent there, but eventually if those don't sell, they would just throw them in the trash. So yeah, I'm very happy I was able to save these from the dumpster. Alright, on to another store, and here I found a ton of Wii U titles for sale. Some of the titles that caught my eye in this store first included Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, which I do think I have for the Nintendo Switch as well, but I'd definitely like to get it for the Wii U. Then we have Assassin's Creed 3, Bayonetta. Some of the titles down here was Kirby and the Rainbow Curse. Then all the LEGO titles, of course, that were standard that are for sale in almost every store I went to. The NES Remix also intrigued me because I don't know what that game actually is. Pikmin 3 I don't think I have yet. Rabbids Land. Star Fox Zero. I mean, some of these games are just very desirable. And yes, they had the remasters of The Legend of Zelda down at the bottom that didn't say they were for sale, but I do have a story about that. But also, this store has the largest selection of 3DS titles I have yet seen in one of these stores. And again, there are a lot of titles here that I think that I would like to get. I mean, there are a lot of Mario and Nintendo first-party titles. There's Zelda at the bottom, Super Smash Bros. For 3DS, Mario Maker for 3DS, Mario 3D Land. Of course, they have the standard fare of LEGO titles that I would also like to get. Some of these titles are actually pretty fun. They have a couple Kirby games, Epic Mickey, Animal Crossing again, which I already have, but... And then again, they also have some Wii games that possibly could be desirable. It looks like they have every single Just Dance game since the franchise started on the Wii. And Resident Evil Umbrella Chronicles would be interesting to get. They have Super Mario Galaxy, Paper Mario, and games like Metroid, so I mean, they had a wide variety that I wanted, but not all of these are listed for sale. And after getting a stroke of luck at the previous store I was at, I decided to go ahead and talk with the cashier and see if there are games that just aren't labeled for sale yet. And in doing so, I was able to get all of the games I wanted from this store. Just take a look at this stack. So yes, I'm very happy with the haul I was able to get from this store, although I will say it did take a while for them to buff out the discs. Thankfully the 3DS titles didn't take that long because they're cartridges. Again, I don't have a 3DS yet, but I feel like I can get one pretty cheap as the system is being phased out. It looks like I'll have to get one of those now before the system is fully cleared off of store shelves. And again, here's the rest of the Wii U titles I got. I think this is all of them, but I'm not quite too sure. As I captured this footage as the cashier was actually getting some of the games for me, so this is most of them, if not all of them. Alright, so as you can see, this was a very successful trip. This was actually, again, 2 trips kind of combined into this video, as I didn't find a lot in most of the stores, but in these stores I was able to find a lot. But there's one more bonus store that I stopped at that offers a lot more than just Wii U titles. This is actually a retro gaming store that is a small business. It's not a chain, it's just run by, I think it's one of the owners I talked to in here. So let's go ahead and take a look at what this store looks like. So this video game store actually showed up under a Google search, or Google Map search rather, for retro game stores, because I have not been in this area very much, and I wanted to see if there was anything else out there besides these video rental stores. Pulling up to the building, you can see that this was obviously a church of some sort for a while, unless this stained glass window display of Noah's Ark is actually video game related, which I guess it could be because there is a game based on that. But as soon as I walked in, I was captivated by the display case here with some rare and exclusive titles as well as some accessories for game systems I'm not able to find often. Yes, they had the Power Pad complete in box, and yes, that is a copy of Little Samson complete in the box, but at a price that I cannot afford. I don't know if it's actually a good deal for the title, but I know I couldn't afford it, so I just moved past it. Still something I never thought I would see in person. And also they had some Sega Saturn games that caught my eye. I actually don't find these too much in my area, especially complete in box, so these were something that intrigued me as well. Underneath those, they had a whole bunch of complete in-box 3DO titles. That is a system I don't have, but I do hope to collect one day. And since I don't find the titles too often, maybe I'll collect a few of these before I get the system so I can at least get a few titles to test the system out and make sure it works when I actually get it. Oh yeah, and I did get a close-up of the little Samson case with my flash on so you can actually see the box a bit better. It is in pristine condition, but the price is, at least at the time of this video, $3,500. I suppose if I was absolutely shameless, I would mention that I have a Patreon page, but I guess I'll move past this. But anyway, that's just the entryway to this store. Here is the actual store. And I have to say, there is a lot of space in here, and they have definitely packed it to the brim with a whole bunch of retro technology, as well as modern recreations of some of the older stuff. I did actually spend a long time in this store, but the first thing I looked at was, of course, the Wii U titles. A lot of these were decently priced, or at least around the value that I've seen them go for on eBay, but when I went to paying $1 to $5 per game, I really couldn't go back to paying those prices. Their GameCube collection was quite impressive. Again, I find some GameCube games in my area, but I'm never able to find the games I actually want. I did find this Wii U title, which is complete in box and sealed, but I'm not quite sure what this game actually is. It doesn't show up in any of my games lists for physical releases for the Wii U. And again, the same with this game. I'm wondering if these were limited release games because they don't show up on the physical releases games list. PS1 games were also very plentiful in this store. They had Vagrant Story, which caught my eye, as well as some complete in-box tall box games. Thankfully, I don't think the PS1 market has gone up and skyrocketed in price like the N64 market did, so I'm actually not too opposed to collecting games for this system. I did have to get this copy of 3D Lemmings because I've just never heard of it, and I thought it would be something fun to try out. And again, they do have an impressive selection of PS1 titles here. I don't usually find anything other than either a lot of sports games, or occasionally I'll find Spyro or Crash Bandicoot, but for the most part, I'm not able to find games like this. Unfortunately, I'm kind of short on cash at the moment, as I have been collecting a lot for the Wii U lately, so I wasn't able to get as many games as I wanted from here. But that didn't stop me from looking, and there were a lot to get through in this store. I didn't really have a comment about everything I saw in this store, so I thought I'd show you a few more highlights before I moved on to the next section. So yeah, again, there were a lot of great things in this store, and it appears I'll have to come back here and take a deeper look when I'm looking for some more obscure objects. However, this is only half of the space. On the other side, there are actually a bunch of old arcade games that have been restored. First, I started looking at all the old pinball machines that are in here. It's actually great to see all these old machines still working and able to be played by anyone who walks in. It was a shame that their dual screen cabinet for Punch-Out wasn't working, but seeing Final Fight And games like the original Contra, as well as Crystal Castles, which I do own the arcade 1-up version of. I mean, all of these games, complete with their CRTs, just takes me back to the time when I was a kid and I used to go to arcades. Although I didn't really have enough money at the time to play everything that they had in there, I remember just spending time in there and sparingly rationing my limited supply of quarters while I was in the mall waiting for my parents to get done shopping. But anyway, I did end up getting a few games from this store, including some of those Sega Saturn and 3DO titles, but I did not capture footage of which ones I got, so I've since forgotten which specific titles I purchased here. But yeah, next time I'm in this area, I will definitely stop by this store again. So again, this is another fantastic run. My library is still expanding on all the games that I got. In this trip, it's actually more of the 3DS titles that I got, so I'm very happy to expand that, but I still don't own the system yet, so I guess I'm gonna have to keep an eye out for one. Again, no video, but I did snap some pictures of all of the games that I got. Here were the Xbox 360 and Wii games that I got. I did end up getting a couple of Xbox One titles, and DuckTales Remastered was an excellent find, as the prices for these have been up lately. Adventure Time, SteamWorld, and LEGO Lord of the Rings for Vita were all part of an online lot that I bought. And yes, here are the rest of the Wii U titles that I bought. And here were the last few, including some of my 3DS titles. And as promised, here are some of the other things I got at those video rental stores that were shutting down. I got these large display signs for their PS3, Xbox 360, and Wii, as well as a couple of game posters they had there. I also picked up one more thing. Turn on the arcade.
Arcade powering up. Get your tokens and quarters ready. Player 1 start. The game begins in 3, 2, 1.
So yeah, I got an open sign for my arcade. I don't know if I'll keep it on this flashing mode, but it is a welcome addition to make the aesthetic of an 80s arcade feel a bit more authentic. Turn the arcade off.
Powering off the arcade. Game over.
But anyway, that's going to wrap it up for this video. Again, I still do plan on heading up north, and I'm going to do that in the next part of this series. It's actually the final run of this Wii U Epic Gaming haul that I've been going through. So stay tuned for that video coming out to you real soon. As always, if you like what you see, please give this video a thumbs up. Remember to click on that subscribe button and the bell icon to be notified when I make future posts. As always, I want to thank you all so much for watching, and stay tuned because I have more content coming. I'll see you all in the next one. If you like this video and you'd like to help out with future projects on this channel, please consider supporting me on Patreon. Also, if you enjoy the content of this channel, please remember to click on this subscribe button. Again, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Otherwise, I'll see you next time.